Okay, part 2 of this is the law of segregation. As a matter of fact, I'm going to write that down somewhere. That's an S, by the way. This is what Gerbermann discovered with his work in pea plants. Now, to make this relevant to you, we're going to use this in terms of humans. So, a big T is going to represent black hair, and a lowercase t is going to represent blonde hair. Now, I'm also color coding this. The blue is going to represent dad, and the pink is going to represent mom. Dad has black hair because the big T is dominant over the little t. Same thing with mom. She has black hair, but she also carries a blonde gene. The reason this is so is because even though dad and mom are going to make babies, dad and mom each have a biological grandparent as well. So either grandpa or grandma on dad's side had blonde hair, and either grandpa or grandma on mom's side had blonde hair as well. That's why every parent is starting out with 2 traits, because it still takes 2 to make 1. As far as biology math goes, 1 plus 1 equals 1. It still takes 2. Now, dad is going to give one of his T's to his offspring, and so is mom. But we don't know which T dad is going to give. He could give the big T, or he could give the little t. Likewise, mom could give her big T or her little t. So what we're going to do is segregate, as in separate the T's. So remember, I'm color coding this for it to make sense. Now, we do know that the baby, the child of this pair, is going to get a T for mom and a T for dad. But we don't know which one yet, so we have to make for all the possibilities. Which means dad could give his big T and mom could give her big T, or dad can give his big T and mom can give her little t. Or dad can give his little t and mom can give her big T. Or dad can give his little t and mom can give her little t as well. So the truth is, the baby's hair color could be any one of these 4 possible combinations. Remember, genetics is not fortune telling. We are not telling the future. We are using probability, as in, what do you think is most likely going to happen? It's just like playing the lottery. You don't know what's going to happen, we just play the odds. So in this case, I'm going to back it up a little. It's safe to say that there's a big T, there's a big T, and there's a big T. So the baby has a 75% chance of getting black hair. However, there is a 25% chance of getting blonde hair. And we will never know for sure until the baby's born. This is just playing the odds. So if this couple were to have 4 children, most of them will probably have black hair. I hope you understand that. Remember, if you don't understand this, feel free to email me. I will be more than happy to answer your questions. So, the last part on this first section of the notes is the video segment on monohybrid process. Mono means 1. So but we are only comparing one trait. So, in keeping with our hair color, let's say Dad is this and Mom is also this. Now, that whole crossing back and forth thing, that can get very, very confusing. But that's exactly what Gerbermann did. And it wasn't until Mr. Punnett came along and created an easier way to understand how this diagram gets crossed. So I understand that you probably did this back in junior high, but we're just reviewing it here because I can't go on to a dihybrid cross until you understand the monohybrid cross. So, Dad is big T, little t, big T, little t also for Mom. Remember, it does not matter which parent you put on the top or the side, because they're making the same kids. So if you'll remember from junior high, when you're filling out a monohybrid cross, it's just like a map. This is a result of these two. This is a result of these two. This is a result of these two. And this is the result of these two. And the last thing I'm going to show you on this first video segment is how to create a genotypic and phenotypic ratio. Now, as far as a genotypic ratio go, that is where we're going to measure the genes. So, always start with the upper left square. It's just easier to work with. We have two big T's in the upper left square, so that's only one. I'm going to put a check, meaning we've already accounted for that square. The next square is a big T and a little t, and I see two that match that description, so I'm going to put a 2. Now I'm going to erase this so you don't get confused. So far we have 3 of our squares accounted for. The last one is 2 little t's. I'm going to put a 1. So our genotypic ratio is 1 to 2 to 1. And since 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4, and we have 4 squares that we're working with, we're done with the genotypic ratio. The last part of this is called a phenotypic ratio. That means the traits you can actually see. So, as Mendel already stated, dominant will be seen over recessive. And since there is a big T, if there is a big T anywhere in the square, that's going to be dominant. So this one has a big T right here. This one has a big T. That one has a big T. Oh, but this one does not. So we've got 3 squares that have at least one big T. Whereas the other square has little t's. And there's only one of them. And since 3 plus 1 still equals 4, we are still done. Remember, when you take the end of course exam, you are going to be given multiple choice answers. If any of those ratios do not add up to the same number of squares that you are working with, it is not the right answer. So this takes a bit of practice, but this will be one of the easiest questions you'll get on the end of course exam. I'm going to stop it right here for part 1 of the notes. If you have questions, be sure to email me. And have a great day.